Hello and welcome out to this episode of Outbreak Gamers. I'm your host, David Anthony. WebDave's my gamer tag, and I'm here with the one and only, yes, Miles Dompier. Miles, how are you doing, sir?
I'm fantastic, David. Really appreciate you sending the invite. I know this is something that's been in the works for a little while, so appreciate you working with my schedule, and I'm glad we could finally sit down and chat. Looking forward to it.
Definitely, definitely. Well, I'm looking forward to this too. Like I said, a big fan of what you do, and I love watching your Xbox Chaturdays. I watch that religiously, so that's it's and of course you had to miss a week or two because because of the move and all that, but that's totally understandable. But you're back, and it's better than ever. So
That's all right. Back
digging
and
in.
ready in action. Yeah, it took roughly 3 weeks off for a move, and it was really cool to see so many people come online and say they missed the show and stuff like that. It means a lot. Again, I always joke about how I'm just some random guy online talking about video games, and it's always funny and awesome when I hear people connect with what I'm doing and get excited about what I'm doing. So to you and everyone who watches and checks out what I do, I genuinely appreciate it, and it's still kind of weird to me that anyone cares.
Yeah, and I get that. And it's also nice and refreshing that that you're humbled by it. That you haven't got a big Randall Thorhead. Oh, just
Oh no,
kidding. I'm just kidding,
my
Randall. I
internet
love you.
arch nemesis, Randall Thor 19.
Oh my goodness. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let's see if I get this handy here. Uh,
The man with the million.
there we go.
There
That's
it
who
is,
he
the
is.
soundbite. Love Rand, but we
I
do have
know
a
you do.
fake internet beef, and we play it up. We have some fun
Of
online
course.
if you're in the loop.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, and it's just like I said, in the community, it's so nice to be because I mean I really haven't found anybody. I mean, there's always going to be quote unquote fanboys or trolls or whatever, but I mean there's a genuine, really a passion for gaming and for every aspect about it. And like was it Pong Soul always says, this is like the golden age of gaming right now because it really is. It gaming has come into its own. Really, I mean, it's a huge industry, and then it's more popular than movies. As far as money making. So it's like there's got to be a reason that people are really tuning into it. Not only that, but the levels of gaming. I mean, there's, you know, hardcore PC gamers and, people that, play for, hours and months at a time on certain, games and levels and, or online or role play. And then other people that are just as simple as, hey, I got like 10 minutes. Let me do some Candy Crush, you know, but they're gamers too.
Yeah, and
So
it's as someone who grew up playing on Super Nintendo, that was my very first system.
nice.
It's wild to see how far we've come, and now these silly quote unquote games some of us in the hardcore scene make fun of on mobile just absolutely blow away anything that we had access to back in the day.
Right.
So
Oh, exactly.
it has come such a long way, and it's cool to see the industry bigger than it's ever been and more people playing video games. And yeah, I'm not someone who's, as much as I play a lot of hardcore games in the Souls like genre, yeah, I don't really care what people are playing for the most part. I'm just excited that more people are willing to give games a try.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just it's a nice escape, it's a nice release, it's a nice hobby. You know, it can bring families together. It can, there's a lot of different benefits to it, not just, a kid's not doing his homework, he's in there playing games. Well, then regulate his time. You know what I'm saying? Be a parent. And then maybe you'll enjoy the gaming process with them. So that's what I get. All right, so that's my get off the soapbox real quick. So Miles, let's let's find out more about you because that's why we got you here, and I would love to know. I guess how you get to, as far as like I guess your education or maybe your first job or both. Like kind of how what did the young Miles start off doing to to get to where you're at now?
The young Miles. Ah, yes. It was an adventurous time for me. So yeah, I grew up in Washington State. I grew up on the Tulalip Indian Reservation. and I went to a Marysville Arts and Technology High School, which was kind of this specialty focused high school that focused on programs like the Adobe Suite and coding. And it was a little more centralized in that than our standard high school. And so growing up being a tech nerd, being someone who enjoyed gaming, enjoyed the PC stuff, I did have early aspirations of doing coding, and I made my own cheesy 2D platformers when I was in high school and early college. I was really excited about that. I was also really into music as well. So I had this conflict of, do I go into coding? Do I try that? Or do I go into music? So I ended up going to college for audio production. So I went to the Art Institute of Seattle, got my degree in audio production and engineering. And so I worked with some folks in the live sound field. I did mixing and recording for bands. I mixed and tracked bands as well and did post production. I also did a lot of film work. Where I ended up really gravitating towards was independent film, doing Foley, doing sound design. Love that creative process of trying to create sounds, how to bolster sounds, how to get that unique, specific tone. And so that's where I gravitated towards while doing music stuff on the side, while being in a band. I had a death metal band in Seattle called City Screams and Terror. We
Nice.
put out one full length album. We had a little run at some brief, mild popularity in the small Seattle death metal bubble. But ultimately, I decided to move to California because, as someone who is interested in film, that's kind of where the industry is, man. That's where a lot
The
of people
place
were
you ought to
saying.
be, right?
Exactly. A lot of people were encouraging me to pack it up and go to LA. So that's what I did. We moved to LA, lived there for about 8 years. I continued working on film. But the industry is very competitive and not very respectful of a lot of the individuals that are in it. So ultimately, and unfortunately, I just got really burnt out. I was working a lot. I was not getting paid consistently. And when I wasn't getting paid very well. And the moment that really made me reconsider what I was doing is I was speaking with a composer who had been, or not a composer, I was speaking with an audio engineer, a sound designer who had been in Hollywood, quote unquote, for about
Mm.
25 years.
Mhm.
He had done films like Predator 1 and 2. He had done a bunch of huge, big budget, major motion pictures. And he told me that he was still just doing freelance contract work. And I was like, I cannot do this for 25 years, man. I'm sorry. And that was kind of the moment where I was like, all right, I need to figure out what's next for me. And
Yeah.
so from there, I transitioned into this is a weird career change, but I went into sales and marketing because I'd naturally do well with people and in team environments. And throughout my travels, I met a lot of folks who are like, hey, you should try this. So I ended up working for a company called Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits as a chain territory manager in
Wow.
Orange County. And so I was managing retail locations for a bunch of big spirits brands like Jim Beam and stuff like that.
Wow.
Did really well, climbed the old corporate ladder, won rep of the year, got promoted a few times, ended up getting recruited by another company to be the spirits lead for all of Southern California for them. But during all of this, get that I still had that lingering, I want to do something in gaming. I
Mhm.
want to do something in gaming. While I was doing these jobs, I ran my own website for a bit. I went to, events like PAX and Indiecade under the website that I was working with. I remember getting an email back from Capcom about a review code for Dragon's Dogma for the website, and
Wow,
having those
nice.
moments.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that while I was working my job, my day job, if you will, I was doing the
Mhm.
gaming stuff on the side. And then in recent years, I was asking myself what I wanted to do long term, what was going to make me happy long term.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I said, I need to figure out how to make gaming my full-time thing. It's always been a side hustle, but I'm tired of it being my side hustle. I need to figure out how to make it the full-time gig.
Yeah.
So I guess that transitions a little bit into how I got started with Windows Central. and I saw a job posting from a sister site of Windows Central that was looking for a Pokemon writer. And Pokemon is one of my all-time favorite franchises. Absolutely love it. I know people like Rand and other folks in the Xbox community don't really
I
love
love it.
Pokemon in the same way, but easily one of my all-time favorite franchises. My very first tattoo, which I got somewhat recently, is Pokemon. And there's very
Nice.
few video game franchises I would ever get tattoos of, but that was one I could easily and confidently do. So I applied to be a Pokemon writer, sent all of my credentials, and then a few folks saw that I had video production experience and audio production experience. And folks like Jez Corden were like, "Hey, would you want to try doing social videos for us?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. I have video editing chops. I have editing audio recording chops. Let's give it a go." And so I started off at Windows Central doing like the social videos where it's just the scrolling text and then there's the
Mhm.
music and there's gameplay clips and like here's our quick thoughts on this game kind of thing.
Right.
You see that style of video. So started doing that. Those did well. They clearly saw that I was able to do more than that, and that sort of evolved into what I'm doing now, which is basically working as a writer and producer, doing hosting a lot of the content and creating a lot of content for the Windows Central Gaming YouTube channel for Windows Central.
Nice. Nice. Which we'll have links to in the description below.
Oh,
Everything that you've done is, as you know, as well as your Saturdays show as well. But wow, I mean, one of those things where you don't know about somebody until they, let you know about them. So that's what a start, man. That's awesome. What a career. I mean, I think it's pretty amazing, dude. That is awesome.
so I've got a lot of well-rounded experience, which in
Yeah,
hindsight I greatly appreciate.
right.
Because while I was doing it, I don't want to say I was just doing it just to do it because I
Hmm.
really always in any situation I was able to connect with the people and connect with teams, and that's
Hmm.
something I've always just genuinely enjoyed is that team atmosphere, cultivating teams, building up people, watching people succeed. And I had all of these opportunities to do that in different avenues, and that was great and that was exciting, and that gave me a lot of great fundamentals that I could translate into other things. And so obviously with Windows Central, that is more directly what I want to be doing. Speaking about games, being involved with the industry, being a part of the conversation, you know, analyzing, critiquing, pushing forward, because that's the most exciting thing to me is the future, what the future holds. We've seen it come so far in such a short period of time.
True.
We all know it's only going to continue to grow and evolve. And I'm really excited to see what that is. And I'm really excited to be just a teeny tiny part of what that could be.
Well, and the thing it's, I mean, what you do is extremely important, especially for somebody, well, like me, and like there's a lot of people out there like me that want to know more, they want information, and they want to be able to, you know, there's a lot of, obviously with the news dropping today, and for the last year, pretty much the big story that just keeps unfolding and evolving and growing, and don't see a end in sight yet, which is the ABK deal, which at some point will be come to its conclusion, and then you know Microsoft may be like, okay, on to the next, and it's like, whoa, buckle in, let's start all over again. But I mean, so your channel really does a great job. I mean, the gaming part that of keeping up Windows Central with the stories and stuff. I mean, Jez drops a lot of stories as well. I mean, it's nice that you guys, I guess, work together, obviously, and then a lot of times you'll have him, I guess, as a well, he's been a guest of yours on the Chaturdays show. So I guess how did you guys get together to start with? I mean, how did he, I mean, or I guess, or how did you say you got into into the job, but I mean, it's how did you just something you were applying for? Was it like a, because I mean, you started off, you said a smaller, the other part of the company, and then you worked your way to where you are now. How did that evolve to to the position that you're in now?
Yeah, like I said, kind of a weird situation, and it really started when I applied to be a Pokemon writer. I ended
Right.
up not I mean, I still have opportunities to work because we're all part of Future US, so I do get
Okay.
the opportunities to write for some of our other sites, and that gives me an outlet to write about Pokemon sometimes, which is great. But yeah, applied for that position. Jez in particular saw my resume, saw all the video stuff, and he had been interested in getting Windows Central a bigger video presence.
Okay.
And so we started with social content because that was, quite frankly, cheap and easy to do. And we were
Right.
trying to build up the Windows Central gaming specific branding. So we've crossed over 100K followers on Twitter. So in the last couple of years, we've really done a lot of work to build that up.
Yes. It's
Um,
amazing.
and so really, I think it was just a combination of Jez having a vision for what he wanted Windows Central to be and me being able to deliver on that. Because like I
Yeah.
said, it started with the social content and he was happy with it. A lot of the higher ups were very happy with it. And then we started dabbling with other content. And they're like, all right, well, would you be comfortable trying this? And so it evolved into video editorials. It evolved to like video guides for stuff like Minecraft Dungeons. It
Right.
evolved into opinion pieces from me. And we slowly started trickling that out. And I wasn't on camera for the first while. It was all voiceover stuff, which I have a background in voiceover. I studied voiceover with Scott Burns, he's been the voice of Bowser and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
So I do have a strong background in voiceover. So that's something I was very comfortable with. We started there. And then, as my relationship with Jez grew, as the channel grew, because when I started, I think our channel had 1,800 subs, and it was a kind of weird, not regularly uploaded to thing that just existed. It was
Mhm.
there, but I want to say Jez transferred it from something else originally, and it was like they did videos like a few years before I started, and then stopped doing videos altogether for a couple years.
Right.
There was a channel, but it wasn't active in any sense. And so in a short period of time, we built it up, and we're past 25,000 subscribers now, which is really cool to see. But yeah, that's really what it came down to, was building that relationship with Jez and me demonstrating that I had the chops to get it done and make high quality videos and stuff that people wanted to listen to. And so again, cool for me that people were excited about it, and it's
Right.
given me an opportunity to kind of create my own voice online. Because again, Jez, established figure, love Jez, but it's cool to be another, I guess, go-to person at Windows Central that people
Yeah.
associate with that.
Oh, well, I don't think you could not be associated with it now. I mean, your reputation is pretty high regard. I think so, and I know a lot of other people think so too. I mean, if you've been a guest on a lot of shows that I follow, a lot of, different, from Dealer, and Colt Eastwood, and those type of people that you've also cross worked with some as well. Have you been on any Mr. Boomstick's
Yes, yeah, I've
podcast?
been
I
on
thought so.
Mr. Boomstick shows several times. I'm
Yep.
actually going to be on next Thursday, if I'm remembering right. So I'll be on Breakfast with Boom here
Did I
next
know that?
week.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Guess who
yeah.
else is on Breakfast with Boom?
Yeah, this guy,
Me.
yeah, that's
Exactly.
right.
So
So we'll be
yeah.
together pretty soon here.
Yeah,
Um,
you're like thinking, stalker. Oh no.
oh no.
I'm just kidding.
But
No,
yeah,
that's
it's been cool to be on other people's shows like Xbox 2
mhm.
and RDX and Unlocked from IGN. Kind of funny. I've been on that several times. The
Yeah.
Xcast. So yeah, it's been really cool for me, and it's been like I said at the start of the show. It's awesome to me that anyone wants to hear what I have to say about video games at all. So
Well, you are definitely humble, that's for sure. Which is a good thing, but man, don't sell yourself short, because like I said,
yeah,
a lot of
like I
I
worked
know,
hard to get where I am, and I don't want to just downplay what I've done, but I also
fair enough.
understand that, a lot of other people have worked hard as well.
Yeah,
And a lot of other people continue to work hard every single day. And there's not to discredit anyone's optimism about getting into the industry and quote unquote making it in the industry. Like
right,
that's not even something I consider myself to be at, but there's no guaranteed formula for
right.
getting in anymore. So I understand, and I know a lot of people personally who are working super hard every single day. And
Yeah,
so again, feel for them, respect them, and that's why I don't try to pump myself up as some larger than life figure on the
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, like I said, that's just one of the another wonderful part of you. That's what I'll say. But I mean, like I said, you have the really great YouTube channel, and then there's the actual website too as well, which I'll put that in the description, where everybody can find like the stories and the content and stuff like that that come out are on there as well. And then of course, use guys usually. Geez, what am I from the Bronx? I don't know.
Use
Yeah, I
guys.
know. It's been a long day. But no, but you've been, you and you put out like the latest stories and stuff like that that come out. You guys tweet about them, so it's it's good way to just to know when something's popping is subscribe to your Twitter account, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then you're always going to be up to date on the latest, Windows. And it's not just, I mean, it's Windows gaming, it's Xbox gaming, it's like things to do with Windows as well. Like I know there's been some pretty good stories and articles about some of the, like Windows 11 when it was coming out and some of its game related features and things like that that you guys went into really deep on that I thought were very informative. So, it's definitely a good place to keep up with the latest happenings as far
Yeah,
as
huge shout out to the team because we have a really diverse team of amazing, hardworking individuals, and we
yeah.
cover everything from gaming, which is my beat, Jez's beat, but then we have people like Zach on the Windows side who are really diving into, as you touched on, the Windows 11 updates. If you really are
Mhm,
interested in the Microsoft ecosystem, the Microsoft happenings, whether it be on the PC side, on the Xbox side, we have
mhm,
somebody dedicated to that in one way or another. We have a lot of dedicated hardware folks that are going out and
mhm.
testing all the graphics cards and testing everything and letting you know if it's worth $2,000 or whatever it might be these days to get
Right.
a nice 4090. But yeah, huge shout out to everyone there. A lot of amazing, hardworking people. And again, I do gaming. That is my focus, but we do a lot more than gaming over on Windows Central too.
Yeah, it's like it's a nice little aggregate, all inclusive type, type where to go for the latest tech information is
One-stop shop for
hey.
Microsoft enthusiasts.
I couldn't have said it better myself. There you go. I like that. So Miles, let's get back in. You were talked about. You said you like I guess the Super NES and things like that. But how did you get started with gaming? What was like your first either console or was it arcades or what got you into gaming as a young
Yeah,
Miles?
so I've shared this story on some other podcasts before. So again, some people may have heard this, but
It's all right.
the very first video game that I ever played was The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. And I
Good
remember,
good game to start on.
yeah, visiting my aunt, and she had this big poster of Hyrule on her wall. It was the map of Hyrule that came with the game.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that and asking her, "Oh, what is that? Well, that's really cool. What is that?" And she's like, "Oh, that's from Zelda." And I'm like, "What's Zelda?" And she's like, "Oh, you've never played?" And so she brings out her Super Nintendo. She hooks it up in the bedroom, and I get to sit down and play a good chunk of A Link to the Past. And that was my first introduction to video games. I had never experienced anything like it. I had never seen anything like it. And I was just completely enamored by this experience and this world and the colors and what you could do, the freedom of being able to control what was on the screen. And so from that moment, begged my parents for a Super Nintendo. I was like, I need this. I want to play it. And so they were amazing enough to hook it up with a Super Nintendo and Super Mario World. And my first two games were Super Mario World and the Lawnmower Man for Super
Wow.
Nintendo, like a really eclectic mix. And then shortly
Yeah.
after, I did get my own copy of A Link to the Past. But oh man, that console, that experience, that I was one of those kids who grew up arguably playing way too many video games. That was kind of my main hobby. I did play
Right.
sports, I did play basketball, I did play baseball. So I was outside, doing some sort of physical activity, but every free chance I got, I was
Yeah.
playing video games and I was immersed in that. And since then, I've been grateful to have I have a younger brother and a younger sister, and because of that, we've had pretty much every console, and we've allocated the consoles to different members. So next we got the PS1. That was the family's PS1. Remember playing a lot of Crash Bandicoot, loved Crash Bandicoot. That
Mhm.
game was transformative. Ape Escape. I remember the very first time I ever got to use two analog sticks in a game, and that was just absolutely blew my mind. The rumble, the HD rumble feature, those small little mechanics that we take for granted nowadays, that when they
Right.
dropped were so impactful and meaningful. And then yeah, from there, GameCube, obviously, uh, PlayStation 2, original Xbox. So as we all got into our teen years, I got the original Xbox. My younger brother got the GameCube, and my younger sister got the PS2, and that was our split. But even
Nice.
still, even having the Xbox allocated to me, I would constantly sneak into my brother's room and sneak into my sister's room and play stuff like Resident Evil Outbreak on PS2 or SSX Tricky or Super Mario Sunshine on GameCube. And then yeah, from there, once I had the means to get my own money, whether it be working part-time jobs over the summer or whatever it was, I made it a point where I could to buy every single console. And that's where I've been in my adult life, is spending way too much money on video games and consoles. But you know, I'm not one to miss an amazing experience. Obviously, I work for Windows Central. Obviously, I
Right.
focus a lot on Xbox, but if there is an amazing video game experience, I'm gonna try my damnedest to play it regardless of where it is. So that's why I can safely say I prefer Xbox. That's my primary platform,
Mhm.
but I have the PS5, I have the Switch, and I'm there. Anytime there's a cool game, I'm trying it. I'm trying it, time pending, because now in my adult life, that is the hardest thing to find. Is the money is one thing. Yes,
Yep.
that is frustrating. Games are becoming $70 and things are getting more and more expensive, but also spending $70 on a game and then not having the time to play it is even worse to me. So
Yeah.
that's the biggest hurdle, is sitting down to find the time to play everything that I want to play. And there's still hundreds and hundreds of games that are in my backlog or have been recommended to me that I haven't played. But
Mhm.
um yeah, again, video gaming is still my main hobby. So it's what I do for work, and it's my main hobby. So I spend a lot of time immersed in video games.
Yeah, yeah, I would imagine, and I guess, Game Pass is helpful.
Saves me some
Um,
money,
yeah.
absolutely. I welcome that. I want
Mhm.
PlayStation and I want Nintendo to have a one-to-one equivalent. Whether or not they do it, I don't know, but if
Right.
they did, I would sign up for that in a heartbeat.
Yep.
Because yes, Game Pass has changed the way a lot of people consume video games. And again, I remember signing up for a music subscription service for the first time and just having this unlimited access to all of this music. And I was somebody who was
Yep.
buying physical CDs regularly. Once a week at least, I was buying a new CD.
Mhm.
And so when I switched to that, that completely changed my habits, and ultimately it just saved me so much money. And so that's kind of what Game Pass has been. And I welcome it, and I'm hopeful that people can find business strategies that work to deliver it.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I'm right there with you. Well, thank you for taking us on a little trek there through your gaming history, as it were. So a couple of questions has come out of what we've talked about so far, and in my head, I'm bouncing things around. So, I guess, what instrument do you play? Is it guitar? I see two guitars behind you, and when you were in your band,
Yes, when I was in
okay.
the band, we played 7-string guitars. We played in drop A tuning for anyone who
Wow.
plays guitar. So
Yeah.
it was a heavy band, a lot of blast beats, a lot of screaming. So I did guitar primarily, and would do some backup vocals for live shows, some backup screaming for live shows.
Right. Right. Fair. Well,
Um,
I can rep your voice if you're not careful. So yeah, I get it.
exactly. So
Yeah.
I also play a little bit. I don't have room for a set anymore, a drum set, but I can play drums. I have a bass as well.
See
I
what's
have
over
a,
here?
a keyboard.
My
Yeah,
drum
I
set
see. I
behind
see the
me,
kit. I see.
my
That's
bass guitar sitting over there. Yep.
as soon as I can justify the expense.
Yep.
I really want to get myself a electric kit because I miss playing a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And I used to have acoustics, that big, nice double bass. It was really a lot of fun to play. But over the years of having pets, and certain pets just, you start pounding out on the skins, and they're hiding under a bed for like 2 days because they're terrified, and it's like, yeah, you know
Maybe
what, so I got rid of
little
that and got
mean.
to put on a headset, and, then they walk in and look at you like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm doing this for you. But I get it. It's fun though, man. You still you still keep the chops going, I guess. So every now and again, just sit down and maybe play a little.
Yeah, I still play. I try to play at least for 15 minutes a day, just to keep the fingers dexterous.
Yeah,
But
that's
I've
good.
also been dabbling a lot with Rocksmith Plus, which dropped on PC. I played a
Nice.
lot of Rocksmith as well on Xbox, and it's just a fun way because I'm not in a band anymore, but I still like being able
Well, sure.
to play along with tracks, and that's kind of been the best substitute for me. So
Yeah.
I have a lot of fun with Rocksmith as well as a way to keep playing, keep learning new songs. Um, Probably less into theory as as I once was when I was
Right.
writing music, but I still play pretty consistently.
Well, that's cool, man. I mean, that's awesome. So, so is you said you had at least the one album out? Is that, I mean,
Yes.
is that available?
It
is there
might
anything
I don't
on?
know if it's still listed on
Okay.
iTunes, but it was. So if you type in
Ooh.
A City Screams in Terror, the album was called Beginnings. I don't
Okay.
know if it's still listed. I haven't checked
Well,
recently.
if it's there, because I'll look it up before I post this, I'll put it in the description below. How's that?
There you go. And you can listen to it for free. I found that somebody had re-uploaded the album on YouTube kind of recently, which was funny because there's been
Nice.
some recent developments. Somebody uploaded our album and we got added to the Encyclopedia Metallium for any metalheads that are familiar with that, which
That's cool.
cracked me up because growing up, I was on that website constantly just scouring for new bands, trying to find
Right.
new music. And
Mhm.
so one of my ex bandmates, probably a couple weeks ago, he sends me a DM. He's like, "Hey, dude, somebody added us to this." And I was like, "What?" And so it was
That's
really funny
awesome.
to see my random old death metal band from Seattle listed on this website that I used to use growing up to
Mm.
find new bands. So
I still gotta make you feel good though, right?
yeah, it was
I
cool.
mean,
It's
yeah,
cool to see.
that's cool, man. That's awesome. I mean, if you dabbled in it, excuse me, I'm gonna clear my throat there. But I mean, and something you enjoyed. I mean, that's awesome. And now that other people are, if they're listening to it and they're enjoying it too, that's awesome, man. It's gotta make you feel good. I mean, I would feel great about it. That's pretty cool, man. That's pretty
I
cool.
miss playing live shows a lot. That was a lot of
Yeah,
fun. Just being on stage, having that energy shared between the band and the crowd. It's just I still go to a lot of shows and it's hard to top that feeling. It's such
yeah,
an amazing communal experience where everyone there, much like the gaming community when you're online, everyone's there for the exact same reason. Everyone is
yeah,
there to enjoy this music, have a good time, and be excited. And so that's infectious. It's impossible not to just feed off that energy. And
oh,
so
definitely.
I definitely miss playing live because it was a lot of that. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. Well, I played bar bands, and then ran lights for a couple of big bar bands, which is a big bar bands. It's kind of a misnomer, but they toured a lot all over the country, and a lot of the bigger bars and nightclubs and things like that. And I ran lights for them for a few years, and that was fun. That was a different
Yeah.
experience, but it was since my percussion background. That's one of the reasons why I got the gig was because and I knew when the beat was, I could make the show come to life instead of just, you know, ooh, here's colors and here's some more colors.
Yeah, you gotta
That
have those
was
when the
so
blast beats kick in, you gotta trigger on the strobe effect and really deliver
exactly.
it. Elevate
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
set list.
Now when hit the fog machine, baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. So another question has come up, and this is and if it's too personal, you don't have to you don't have to just maybe if you maybe you could tell us which tattoo you get. What Pokemon tattoo did you get? Not
I
necessarily
don't know if you'll be
where.
able to see it
Oh,
that
okay.
well here,
Oh, there we
but
go. Nice.
yeah, so I got 3 fairly obscure Pokemon. I've only met one person in real life recently who has been able to name all 3.
My
And
daughter
so
could do it, and my son could do it. I
yeah,
couldn't.
that's
I
like
I
that's
do
what I'm looking for. Like
the one the pig with the bouncy tail that if he stopped bouncing, he'll die or something. But I can't
yeah,
think of his name.
yeah, there's Spoink, we got
Boink.
Pumpkaboo, the ghost pumpkin, and then we got Trubbish, which Trubbish is my all-time favorite Pokemon just because of how stupid it is. It's one of those Pokemon that's just so perfect. It's just a sack of
That's
garbage.
so
It's
funny.
just a sack of garbage
Yeah.
that's a Pokemon. So good, love it so much. So that was
Mhm.
when I was picking my first design and picking my first trio.
Yeah.
Trubbish was the number one. Trubbish was number one for sure. That was going to be the first one I got, and so I wanted to incorporate a few more, and I'll ultimately incorporate just this whole arm will be Pokemon as the years go by. But
Nice.
Trubbish had to be the first. Trubbish had
That's
to be the
cool.
first.
That's very cool. When I was a DJ years and years ago, one of the things we did was we were doing a live remote at a at a tattoo parlor, and the the guy that owned it, the main tattoo artist, he had like a couple of weeks beforehand, he had just thrown out the idea, "Hey, would anybody be interested in getting a tattoo live on the air? That way we can kind of show people that it's not as painful as people make it out to be." And I'm like, okay. So we ended up making it a contest to where it was literally on our and the website back then was, was that was back in the old days when website was, not exactly what you call everybody had a computer access to it or whatever. So it
Mhm.
was it was the old HTTP www, you had to put, you put out all that, kind of things, and you're like, people are still trying to figure out how do I get to this, kind of thing with the with the call letters and stuff. But we had end up making it an online contest where they had 5 choices as to what my tattoo was gonna be, and I had to go with it. I did have, make this known later, an out that if for some reason it was something that I just definitely didn't want, I was just gonna lie and say, "Oh, here's the winner," kind of thing.
Here's
But
yeah,
yeah,
this
exactly. But I
one.
ended up getting Cartman
Oh, from
from
South
South
Park.
Park, and he's still right there on my arm to this day. I don't know
Oh
if you can see
yeah.
that. Oh, there
Oh
it is.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Little Cartman.
Yeah, well, there's that and the radio station logo and then Playboy Bunny, Tommy Lee's original tattoo was Mighty Mouse, and then, some like Chinese characters or something like that. That was the 5 choices, and
Okay.
luckily it actually went to this, so I was like, "Alright, I can live with that one."
Yeah.
And it really wasn't bad, but I was actually interviewing him while he was, doing the ink and stuff. It'd be like, he'd ask questions and he'd be over, you hear the sound of the needle while while I was, talking up his shop. He's like, "It doesn't hurt, does it?" He goes, "No, no." I said, "It feels like a little bee sting." I'm going.
Yeah, I've heard really conflicting stories. Before I got mine,
Yeah.
I had one buddy who's like, "Yeah, I've got a bunch of arm tattoos. I've fallen asleep during a couple, like it's whatever."
Right.
And then I had another buddy who's gotten a few tattoos and he's like, "Ask if they have the numbing stuff. It really hurts." And so when I got this one, I wanted the first experience to be the au natural experience. So I didn't
Ooh.
go in with anything.
Right.
And I would say it's mid pain level. It wasn't extreme. Like,
Right.
obviously, it's jarring when they first start, and you get
Yeah.
that, "Oh, damn, this is just a needle just punching my arm over and over and over." But
Yep.
after a few minutes, it's fine, and until they get to, like, the more tender spots, and then for a second, you jolt up, and you're like, "Oh, yeah, okay, we're still doing this," and then it goes back to being just kind of this dull pain. Like,
Mhm.
imagine if someone was pinching you over and over
Mhm.
and over.
That's
Not
a
as
good way
hard
to
as they
describe it.
can, but you're getting pinched.
Yeah.
Eventually, you'll just be like eventually your brain will just tune it out, and that's kinda where I was. So I wasn't sleeping, and I'm not
Right.
gonna say I felt nothing because it did hurt, but it definitely wasn't, the most extreme sensation. But also, I got mine in a pretty benign spot.
Yeah.
So I've heard if you get it on the ribs or the top of your foot,
Yeah.
that's you better strap in for a little more, sensation.
Yeah. I got a friend who did the top of the foot with a shark. Looks really cool, but she's like, "I'll never do that again." She goes, "It was so painful." She said there was times when, she had to keep her foot still, but she'd like stand up, kind of,
It's
kind
like
of.
fighting the urge
Exactly.
to just
Yeah.
flail.
Exactly. Yeah. Or run out the door. So yeah, it all depends on where you get it. Well, cool, man. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing
Oh,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I'll be like, yeah, it's a tram stamp. No, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, just, "Alright, let
Uh,
me bend over. Let me give you a little sample of that."
oh my goodness. We're going off the rails, Miles. Oh my goodness. It's too funny. Well, again, man, thank you so much for being here. This is awesome having you on. I'd like to go just a little bit as to I guess some of your creative outlet made you want to do the your show that you do on YouTube that's basically your show, which is the Xbox Chaturdays. So how did that come together, and how did you decide on a format and the time for when you were going to do it and the name and all that stuff? How did that come about for you?
So, yeah, as Jez and I were talking about how to grow the channel, how to grow what we were doing, how to be a little more consistent, because I do love high production value videos, and
Hmm.
that's something the channel kind of focused on primarily. But those take a lot of time, they take a lot of effort, and I wasn't able to do more than one a week. Like even one a week was a tall order based, on the quality of the videos and the workload. So I was wanting to do a news show. Ideally, is kind of where this started. I was like, Jez, we need to sit down. We need to figure out a news show. He's like, I think you and I should do a news show where we can quickly break down all the biggest news stories of the week. Because with my format of videos, it's too hard to do the daily news videos. And I know
Right.
some channels are really good at it, um, but it's all about time. You got to be the first to put it out, and that wasn't what I wanted to do. That wasn't how I wanted to make videos. So I wanted to do a weekly news show. So originally the pitch was, and originally Jez was the co-host so it was Jez and myself.
Hmm.
And so I was the host, Jez was my co-host, and Saturdays, he came up with the name, no shade on Jez, but Xbox Chaturdays, it's a little cheesy. It's a little corny. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna pretend like I don't know that. But we've embraced it. We've had some fun with it. So he's like,
It
let's
works.
let's do it on Saturdays and let's call it Xbox Chaturdays. And I'm like, okay, sure, let's do it. That sounds good. And so it started, and it was live gameplay. So it was Jez and I playing a game together and talking about the news of the week, because Jez wanted it to be, pretty chill, pretty lax. And my main goal with this show is always going to be talking about the news in a way that's fun, in a way that's entertaining.
Hmm.
And I want to respect the news, want to talk about some of the rumors, have a little fun with that, but I also want to make sure the show is entertaining to watch. And so we did that for a few episodes, and I was like, I don't want us to play games live. I think it was too distracting. It was so if
Right.
you watch the first few episodes, there is live gameplay, and we're not on camera. It's just live gameplay and us talking. Similar format to Xbox 2. Obviously, they don't play games live together, but so from there, I was like, all right, let's focus this a little bit, and let's get on camera. And so at the time, Jez wasn't comfortable being on camera.
Hmm.
He's since gotten a little more comfortable, gotten a little more willing, and you
Hmm.
know, I know how the internet can be. I constantly not every video, but I get a lot of comments on, oh, you look tired. And like, that's just my face. Like, I always look like this. I always look tired. I have the I'm pale. I have the dark circles. Mostly that's just genetics. I'm sorry. That's just the way my
Miles,
face is.
I look fat. Can you imagine that? It's probably because I am fat.
It's
Alrighty
just
then.
so yeah, I get that. Oh, you look tired. And every video I'm like, okay, well, I know how I look. And so that's just something that I've come to terms with, but I understand that it's a lot. It's a big ask when you go online, and it's a big risk because people can be mean. People can be really mean but I'm also grateful that most people are nice, and most people are understanding, and most people are supportive. So
Yeah.
once you get past that initial hurdle of, yes, sometimes there's going to be mean folks, it's a lot easier. And so I switched the format after about 4 episodes to, it's going to be pre-recorded gameplay off to the side, usually of the big game of the week. And I want to sit down with one other person, and I want to have a focused conversation with that person. I want to get similar to what you do here, getting to know someone a little bit at the start of the
Hmm.
show, and then diving into all the biggest news stories of the week, and getting their opinion to help
Yeah.
break up my own opinion. Because as much as I love shows like Xbox 2, where it's the same two folks, because you know what to expect. Jez
Pretty
and
much.
Rand,
Yeah.
hilarious. Love those dudes. They have their
Hmm.
dynamic, they have their banter, and that's really great. But I wanted to make sure that when we talk about these stories, we're getting different perspectives, and that helps kind of inform my opinion on it and shape my
Hmm.
opinion, or maybe in some cases challenge my opinion on it a little bit. And so that became the format that we know with Xbox Chaturdays, where it's me and usually one random person per week. I've had a lot of returning guests, which has been nice. There's been a lot of people I've connected with that I've had fun with, so it's easy to get them back on. I continue to strive to get new folks on, and I'll have some new folks on for October. But yeah, that's kind of what it came to be. It started with Jez and I wanting to do a new show, Jez wanting to do the live gameplay, and then that kind of transforming into, all right, well, Jez is going to step away just because of scheduling conflicts, and I'm going to kind of, in Pokemon terms, evolve the show. We're going to change what the show
Nice.
is. So there was pretty big fundamental change early on with Xbox Chaturdays, and it's been really cool that people connect with what we're doing because I love the one-on-one format. I really, really do.
Yeah, me too.
I've been on bigger panels, and that's fun as well. Again,
Mhm.
especially established panels, you have the banter, you have the established dynamics of all the hosts. But I do like the more intimate, if you will, one-on-one conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I agreed. And I do, enjoy your show, and I'm not just blowing smoke. I do watch it every Saturday, that it's on. So, and,
Well, I do
mm,
appreciate, like, every time I see a comment like that, it just warms my heart. Or seeing regular folks in the chat, like every single
mhm.
week, I'll see a handful of the same people returning every single week, and that's so cool. I'll
Yeah.
have people when I miss a week or when I take some time off, I'll have people DM me or hit me up on Twitter and say, "Where's the episode? Where are you at?" And so stuff
Yeah.
like that, like having people look forward to it, that is
Mhm.
really cool.
And I think it's good that you, like you said, you put out a subject that's usually a topic that's usually, current for the week, and sometimes you go over more than one, but usually you'll get their side, their input, their perspective, and then your perspective, your input, and I think that's great because like you said, like what Ran and Jez do. I mean, that you're right. It's right back and forth. That's awesome. And Mr. Boomstick, he does have a large panel. Sometimes you feel like you maybe your point maybe gets lost, or you're getting ready to make your point, and it's like, and the person before just just says everything you were gonna
Like,
say,
"Oh,
and you're
yeah,
like, "Ah,
I
okay."
agree," and then move on.
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much. But I mean, but there's nothing wrong with it, and that's
Exactly.
variety, and
Yeah.
that's what I like about your show is it's a little different than all the rest. So, and I mean, you have a good working knowledge. You are a gamer. You come at it from a gamer perspective, and I think that's important too. Not just somebody that's trying to do a show to get likes and clicks and stuff. So that's or not just and there's plenty of shows out there where people just trash, whether it be other people, other channel, other platforms, and they get a lot of views, but I have no interest in watching some of that
Yeah,
stuff.
and it's again, for me, I will always prioritize talking about the things I like.
Yeah,
Obviously, with a focused show like Xbox Chaturdays, focused on the Xbox ecosystem and Microsoft, I do have to cover a lot. I have to cover the negative stuff because that's fair.
right.
It,
Hmm.
it's important. It's important to be critical. It's important to understand how to levy criticism against someone or something.
Hmm.
But again, I always try to be constructive. And I know some people just want a show where I come on and say PlayStation's bad, and they go, "Yeah, PlayStation is bad. PlayStation sucks." And there's, like you said, there are plenty of channels doing that.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Mm-mm.
That will never be me. I have no interest in that. I will talk about PlayStation. I will criticize PlayStation on the show as long as I can tie it into the gaming industry as a whole. But I'm not here to bash on any one or any game or anything because it's just, to me, it's not interesting. It's not
Right.
constructive. It's not interesting. And it doesn't actually do anything except for feed into this idea that the only real or true opinion is a negative one. And I
Right.
hate that ideology so much because, again, you see a lot of people like my brutally honest review or whatever kind of cliche you want to throw around.
Yeah.
And then you see people online who say, "Oh, I'm glad you can speak your truth." And I'm like, so that's the only thing that you think is authentic is anger. That's the only authentic feeling you understand. And
Mm-mm.
I push back on that in a big way. And I know for some people, that's not what they want. And
Well,
for those people, there are plenty of shows that are that.
there you go. Well, I strongly recommend that everybody that's watching this and is getting to know you, that'll go on the links below and click and subscribe to everything. And then when you're on, not only that, but when you're on the YouTube channel, you subscribe to the channel and you hit the little bell icon so that you're notified as soon as new stories drop and new videos drop, because that's important.
Smash
It
that.
really,
Again,
exactly.
I don't like to talk about the algorithm or whatever because it's inside baseball that's boring
Right.
to the average person watching it. But yeah, I would say if you like someone's content, the biggest way you can show that you like that is obviously to watch it. And then
Right.
if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment as well because that
Yeah.
is talking to people within YouTube who understand the way that kind of works is if someone comments, that is more likely to get recommended to someone else.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
that's why those angry videos get
Sometimes, yeah.
recommended, because they get a lot of comments because people are mad. People are mad
Exactly.
about
I can't believe
something.
you said this.
The
Yep.
algorithm isn't really smart enough to know if this is a good comment or a bad comment. They're just like, oh, dang, a lot of people are commenting on this video. Let's share it to more people and get that conversation, keep that conversation growing. So,
Yeah.
again, if you do like someone, I would say that's the easiest way to show your
Agreed.
support. It's free,
Mhm.
which is huge. I
Exactly.
understand, not everyone has money to throw around, but it's a easy, free way to show some support. And
It
again,
is.
with my show, I want to have fun with it. And
Yeah.
that was the goal of the show. And that's why I try to keep it a little more positive. And I've had long negative conversations about stuff like Halo Infinite and other practices in the games industry I'm not happy with, but mostly if I can, I want to talk about the things that I'm excited about, because that is,
Yeah.
I don't know, for me it's more fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Positivity is always, seems to, it makes you feel better than to be mean and negative and all the time. Like you said, there's some things you have to cover, but
Yeah.
hopefully the covering of those things, you know, was it the best example I can think of is when Microsoft uh, was changing the price a few years back now of their gold games with gold, and they
Hmm.
raised it,
They
and
doubled it.
right,
They
and people
tried
just
to.
lost their minds, which should have. And people went in and they spoke their mind, and like 6 to 8 hours, not even a full day, and they had put a post up and they had changed it and rectified it, and it was because of people talking about you know what they wanted and what their expectations were from a company like Microsoft, that made the change. So, not necessarily say it's all the way in how you deliver it. If you're like they're dirtbags, they're bastard, that's not going to do anybody any good. But you say, why would you do this if you still can't, you know, get online and play free games of the service, or can't, well, for one time with Xbox Live, to play like Netflix and stuff like that, you had to be a subscriber
Yep.
to
There's a
Xbox
lot of
Live.
paywalls with
Yeah.
Xbox Gold, and I've talked about how I can't stand the fact
Yep.
that Microsoft is pushing this unified ecosystem between Xbox and PC,
Yep.
but there's just a tax for console players. PC
Yeah.
players get all of those benefits for free,
Yep.
no charge to them whatsoever. But on the console side, you get nothing extra, but you have to pay. And again, I understand Microsoft is a business and they're trying to make money, and they are
Right.
currently making a lot of money. So as
Mhm.
much as we want them to be the cool, nice guy, they're probably not going to just say, all right, we're making all this money now. We're just going to stop making that money to make you guys happy. Like
Right.
again, that's a big ask. I understand why they're not going to do it, but I'm still going to talk about it because
Right.
it's important. And again,
Mhm.
we have to be able to articulate our opinions and thoughts in a way that isn't inflammatory, that isn't conspiracy theory laden.
Yep.
Um, because just throughout, like we talked about earlier, I've had a lot of opportunities to be involved with teams and work with people.
Mhm.
And one thing that I've learned in all those experiences that is that how you say something is more important than what you say in a lot of cases.
Mhm.
Because ultimately, until the world is completely replaced by AI, and there's AIs running every single aspect of our lives, at the end of the day, and at the end of that complaint is a person. At some point, it's going to get to a person, and
Yep.
you have to be able to articulate it in a way that is respectful of that person, or at least demonstrates some sort of empathy for that person. Because as
Right.
much as we think we know everything, myself included, we all, and on certain topics, we think we know best, or we have opinion that we might think is best. We don't have the full picture of what's going on behind the scenes almost 99% of the time. So um it's important to keep that in mind when you're screaming on Twitter.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Yeah, and like I said, there's some people that definitely it's like those think before you speak, it's think before you tweet. because there's some stupid stuff that gets put out sometimes into the ether.
Yeah, Twitter's
But you
fun.
know,
Twitter's mostly fun. For me, Twitter is 95% a good time, and then 5% of the worst things I've ever seen.
don't you mean Elon's Twitter? He's back to buying it again.
Ooh,
As of right now. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm just playing. Sorry, I had to throw that out there.
it breaks my heart a little bit, but that's whatever.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. So I guess I guess to wrap this up a little bit, as we get toward the end here, um, let's get because I know you probably have, and say this this is all positive, but you probably have heard of some games, because especially with jazz in your ear, that maybe that not all of us or know of, or that maybe something that is not known, and that's not what I'm asking about. So what I want to know is what game that is known or announced that you're most looking forward to in the future. What game coming out that you're like, it's not out yet, it's
Ah,
coming. That's what I want, and it can be more than one because almost inevitably there's everybody's like, it can't just be one, but that's fine. But I was just curious as to what is coming out that you're like, Miles is wanting this. What game would that be for you?
yes, there's a couple.
Okay,
Huge fan of horror. Love horror movies, love horror games.
me
I'm
too.
a big fan of the horror genre. So probably number one right now on the near horizon is the Callisto Protocol. Love Dead Space.
Yeah.
Really excited about the Dead Space remake as well, but I'm really curious to see what this team can do with some new ideas and a new studio, new team, because they've been talking about this project for a while. All of the showings have been incredibly strong. It
Yes.
really feeds into the history of Dead Space, while seemingly trying to do something new. And
Mhm.
my ultimate hope is that it does something new. It is I want this to be greater than what Dead Space was. And that's a big ask,
Yep.
obviously, because Dead Space was such an important horror game for the time it came out. You had franchises like Resident Evil and Silent Hill struggling to figure out where to be, struggling with how to be scary and how to fit in that space. And then Dead Space dropped out of nowhere and said, boom, this is how you do it. This is how you
Yep.
make a modern horror game. And that blueprint only existed for a small period of time, because quickly after Dead Space hit, horror as a genre in the mainstream at least really disappeared. Like
Mhm.
there weren't a lot of AAA horror games for a long time, and now we're in this age where there's a ton of them, and people are looking at stuff like Resident Evil 2 remake and saying, "All right, we can spend some money on horror and people are going to buy it." So
Yeah.
that has me excited. The Callisto Protocol has me incredibly excited. And then beyond that, obviously, as a Pokemon fan, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the first open world Pokemon game with 4-player co-op, which
Mhm.
they haven't really shown us what that is. I'm
Mm. It's coming out pretty
uh,
soon too, isn't it?
November 15th. Correct me if
Yeah.
I'm wrong, but it's coming up really quick. So those two, and then early at the start of next year is just a dump of so much stuff. You got Resident Evil 4, you have Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you have Killer Clowns from Outer Space,
Yeah.
you have Tears of the Kingdom, you have Redfall, there's just looking at the calendar, which I did actually about 2 days ago. I went through my upcoming coverage calendar and
Right.
looked at everything coming over the next 6 months, and there is more than any of us can play. Even if none of us worked and we all had unlimited resources to buy these games, we would
Yeah.
not have enough time to play all of them. And it's a good place to be in a lot of ways, but also as someone who wants to play all of these games, a little disappointing.
Yeah, oh, I'm with you. It's like be careful what you wish for, because like we're
Mhm.
gonna have all these great games, and then something else that is gonna take your time, like Starfield comes out, and you're like, I gotta spend a little time in there, and you probably end up days and days getting lost in that game. I mean, you can imagine what it's gonna do to gaming when it comes out. So
It's gonna
yeah,
be one of those games that, just like Elden Ring, I think just dominates the conversation. Everyone is gonna be posting screenshots, everyone is gonna be talking about it. Yeah, and those games are special, and it's it's been a little bit since we've had a game of that level. Obviously, Elden Ring was the last really big one, so I think a
Right.
lot of people are looking towards that moment again. Maybe God of War Ragnarok will be that. I'm
Right.
hoping it'll be a big moment where everyone, regardless of if you're a hardcore gamer or not, it's important to have those moments like with Game of Thrones or the Super Bowl
Hmm.
where everyone is just talking about it.
Yeah.
And it's cool when gaming gets a chance to be in the stratosphere of a Super Bowl or something like that.
Yeah. Now I know there's like you said, the God of War, the new one isn't out yet. But like if you were, because I know you're going to have some kind of countdown show coming up at the end of the year, but just a ballpark, what would you say is like a front runner now for game of the year? What would you think
For
something like
me,
that might for
I
you, of course?
honestly cannot imagine anything overtaking Elden Ring. That
Yeah.
game for me, even as a huge From Software fan, even as
Yeah.
someone who went into that game with huge expectations, huge Dark Souls 3, one of my favorite games ever made by
Nice.
far. So I went into Elden Ring with big expectations, and somehow, some way, that game managed to exceed my expectations, and that almost never happens anymore. Again,
Right.
like, I've just had a lot of experience. I get excited about games, I'm fine, but usually I have that conversation with myself after a couple days, like, "All right, well, this was cool, but it's not what it could have been, or it's not entirely what I wanted." Elden Ring was more than what I wanted, and that was such a cool, rare moment, and I played so incessantly for months and months straight. It was the first open world game I've ever finished and then immediately started another playthrough, finished that playthrough, and then
Wow.
started a third playthrough. The first time that has ever happened for any open world game ever in the
Wow.
history of my life.
That's
And so
awesome.
that was huge. That was really important. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how God of War Ragnarok lands, but really for me, I cannot imagine any other game coming close to that. But I
I'll have
hope
to agree
so.
with you.
I want every game to be that experience. I really,
Right.
really do because there's nothing better than that experience. And it honestly, Elden Ring was so good that it made me disappointed with the next few games that I played that followed it because I'm like,
I can see that.
this isn't Elden Ring. This isn't
Yeah.
that.
And it's funny, from my point of view, I, I I love the game, absolutely love it. I mean, I have it on multiple systems. I have it on the Xbox is the one I play on it the most, but I did end up buying a copy for PC for Steam, and then I had my daughter. She for PlayStation 5. I was like, oh wow, so I bought it for her. So she has. I bought it on three different. I bought it three times. Okay,
Yeah.
and I played the hell out of it. I've gotten my level or whatever the up to like 500.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And here's the thing: this I haven't beaten the game yet because I don't know that I want to beat it yet because I'm still enjoying when I turn it on. I'll still find something I've never done before or another dungeon or something else, and I'm like, oh, I'll go here. Isn't that
Yeah,
weird? I don't know. Maybe it's
it's
weird.
it's yeah, it's I felt the same way. It was I didn't want it to end.
Yeah,
So, it was one of those experiences where, like you said, every time you play it, you find something new, you find some new detail, and I didn't wanna finish it until I had explored every nook and cranny that I possibly could.
yeah,
So, I didn't finish my first playthrough until I thought I had done everything. And then when I did, I was still finding new things in my second playthrough.
yeah,
But I did have that moment where I was sad. I was really sad that I
yeah,
had beat it and that experience was over, and it's, again, like a weird place to be to enjoy something so much that you're
yeah.
sad it's over, but
Yeah.
that's
Or
that's how I
I
felt.
can't bring myself to beat it because I don't want it to be over. That's something that's probably even sadder. Not only that, but you went in and you beat it again. So I mean,
Yeah.
awesome. Awesome. Miles, thank you so much for being on the show today, man. I really appreciate this. It was awesome getting to know you and getting to talk to you. And I think you're a great guy, obviously, and love everything you do. And you're a big inspiration to the community, whether you know it or not, because like I said, you set a good high bar, a good standard of ethics and the information that you bring across to everybody every time that that you're on a show or another podcast or article you write or anything like that. It's just it's great. And again, thank you for all that you do for the community. And if you don't mind, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah. So, Dave, thanks so much for hanging out, asking some great questions, asking for some stuff, off the beaten path a little bit. Appreciate that. And
No worries.
again, I really appreciate all the kind words, all of the energy and enthusiasm that folks share for my work. The fact that I'm still catching up on DMs from people asking me to come on shows. Again, I've been slowly getting back to folks. So if you did send me something, apologize in advance. I know it took us a little bit to get this scheduled. So again, thank you for bearing with me.
Worth the wait.
But yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, again, as I talked about, I'm on Twitter probably too much, at Miles Dompier. That's where you can find most of my work. That's where you can find most of my shit posts. And that's where you can find most of what I'm working on. Or you can check out my written content on windowscentral.com or my video content on youtube.com/Windows Central Gaming.
Fantastic. And I'll have all that in the show notes below. And if they're listening later on iTunes or Spotify or iHeartRadio, they'll also be in the description is there as well. So they'll be able to click through on those and find them and listen. And I strongly recommend that everybody go through because it doesn't cost anything to subscribe to a YouTube channel. Subscribing to a YouTube channel is free. And that's the best way to show your support and to also not miss content. And you hit that little bell icon too, because that's important.
Smash
like
that
you
like
said,
button, drop a
like
comment, ring that bell.
Exactly. Miles, thanks again for being here. We really appreciate it. And thanks to everybody for being here with us on Outbreak Gamers.